Can I be transparent with y'all? I remember at the age of 9 years old, at the time I was living in Newark, New Jersey, and I remember on a particular day I was standing outside on my back porch looking towards my house, and I just remember feeling a sense of sadness and helplessness and hopelessness for my mother, because at the time my mother was being physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually abused by her boyfriends that she was dating at the time. And I remember standing there thinking, man, what we going through in this house, what my family, what my mother, my 4 siblings, is not right. How these men are treating my mother, the things that a 9, a 10, and an 11-year-old child is seeing is not right. Seeing my mother be physically abused, seeing my mother constantly arguing with her boyfriends, seeing my mother just in the room with the door shut for months and for years of going through depression is not right. Seeing around the neighborhood men shooting and killing each other, selling drugs on the block, not going to work, not being responsible, not being men of the house was not right. And I remember standing there, feeling that sense of hopelessness, helplessness, and sadness towards my mother, towards my family, towards my community. And on that day, I remember making a commitment and a vow to myself that when I get of age and able and old enough to date a woman, I will never in my life treat her the way men treated my mother. The horrors they caused upon her, the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual wounds they inflicted on her. I would never treat a woman like that, but instead I would treat her like a queen. I would be her provider. I would be her protector. I would be her all in all. I would never treat her that way. And that when I became old enough, I wanted to be faithful to one woman, and eventually we would get married, we would adopt children and teach our children a different way of life. That vow was me taking on the man's responsibility towards his woman, and that is what I became at the age of 18. But let's back it up a little bit. From the age of 9 to the age of 16, the way I dressed was in men's clothing. I was the biggest tomboy. I didn't want anything to do with femininity at all. I was masculine and I loved it. However, going to school and being attracted to the girls that's in your classroom and not being able to say anything about it, that was torturous. That was tormenting. The torment increased the older I got because, once you're a teenager, your hormones start kicking in and you want to date, you want to be sexually active, you want to do things. But that was not popular at the time. Everybody was kind of still in the closet, so I couldn't say anything. That's why it was so tormenting. And so when I was a junior in high school, making plans to go to college, I said to myself that I'm only going to an all-girls school because I need to come out. This is too much. This is going to break me. This is going to literally kill me if I don't let this come out. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Those that been in the closet for years. And some of y'all are still in the closet now and just being tormented to literally death, to where you want to check yourself out of here to get relief. Rewind back a little bit. Now, at the age of 16, I gave my life to Christ. I heard the gospel. I responded to the gospel by putting my faith and my trust in Christ. Nothing else mattered at that time but me and Jesus. And at that time, at the very moment that I got saved, I felt a difference. Something happened. And that something that happened was that my spirit became alive in Christ. That Christ revived my spirit that was dead to him. And I fell in love with him. I fell in love with him so much that I didn't even care that I was 16 years old. I wanted to be in church all the time. Every time the church had something, Tuesday night studies, the Sundays, I wanted to be around Christians. I wanted to learn more and get to know who he was. I didn't even care about my sexuality. That didn't even matter. And a couple of months later, after I got saved, I heard a small, still voice in my spirit saying to me, Kasana, I want you to preach and teach my word. So I said, Lord, is this you? And the Spirit said again, I want you to preach and teach my word. And I said, if this is you, Lord, I accept this calling. And I felt this warm sensation go throughout my body. And I started tearing up and I started crying with joyful tears. And I said, surely, Lord, that was you who spoke to me. My grandfather being a pastor at the time, I told him my experience. He immediately started showering me with biblical books and Christian life and just things to help me to grow. And I was so excited. I still enjoy going to church. I still enjoy fellowshipping with the saints. I couldn't wait to get out of school to dive right into my biblical studies. I was just sold out for Christ until one day I received a phone call from a saint asking me about my clothing. I still wore my men's clothing, and the saint said, why are you still wearing men's clothing? Are you a lesbian? And that shook me to the core, because I was not about to tell this person that I was, my attraction towards women. So immediately I said, no. And the saint said, well, why don't you put on a dress? Why don't you put on a skirt? And I said, because I don't want to put on a dress and I'm not comfortable with putting on a skirt. They said, well, women don't go around dressing like men. If you are a lesbian, remember, lesbians and gay people, they go to hell. So start dressing more feminine. That conversation hurt me to my heart. After I got off that phone, I cried. And I felt so embarrassed to go back to the church. I didn't go back because I was embarrassed. I didn't have any skirts and dress to put on because that's all I wore was men's clothing. And when I prayed to God, I said, well, Lord, me being a new believer, I thought, well, Lord, am I going to hell for this? I thought you loved me. We have a good relationship going on. Why am I going to hell? I can't help this feeling. And immediately I started to wean myself from God, because I thought that he hated me because of what this one saint said to me. I thought God hated me. And that's where the vow came in, that I was going to an all-girls school and I was coming out. I was spiritually hurt by the church. That was my first time experiencing church hurt. So when I got to college, I did enroll in an all-girls school. Ironically, all of my friends, well, majority of my friends, my college friends, were straight. How am I gonna come out? How am I gonna be myself? Because when they saw the girls around campus that were lesbians, of course, they didn't have nice things to say about them. And the way I dressed, I still was in my men's clothing. So some of them would ask me, Cassandra, are you gay? And of course, I would deny it quickly. No. They said, well, where's your boyfriend? I said, well, he's back at home. Lying. And I became so depressed. My freshman and sophomore year in college, I became very, very, very depressed, where I stopped going to class. I just stayed in my dorm room and I slept. I slept days away, weeks away, until I finally just dropped out. I had thoughts of suicide constantly because I just wanted to come out and live my life and be a lesbian and be who I was, what I felt on the inside. I craved a relationship with a female. And fast forward from the age of 18 until 26, I did live my life as a lesbian. And in that period of time, me and God wrestled back and forth. Because when I was out there, God continued to convict my heart and let me know to come back to Him. I don't want this for you. And I would go back and say, Lord, you better leave me alone. Because if I got to go back and be with a man and be in that church and feel the way that I felt, I'm not doing that. Either you accept who I am, or you definitely can leave me alone too. I would throw my Bible, I would throw tantrums, I would cry, stomp my feet. Me and God was going back and forth, back and forth. But I am so glad when I came to realize is that all along, He loved me. All along, He did that because He loved me. And when I came back to Him, I realized that I was that one sheep that went astray, and that He came back to get that one sheep to add back to the pasture. What a wonderful and awesome God we serve. If you can relate to this piece of my testimony, I would love to hear from you. I would love to hear what God has done in your life. Those that heard the word that I just spoke, if it don't apply, let it fly. But share it with a person that may benefit from this. I love you in the Lord. Be healed by God's love. Be saved by His grace, and be set free by His blessed truth.